Hello! Today I'm going to talk to you about a sense of belonging and how important that is for somebody's wellness in all groups of people. Alright, so I'll start with my introduction. Adler in 1931, many decades ago, said that the fundamental motivation of human beings is the need to belong. According to Rachel Schifrin, feeling a sense of belonging to these groups is the primary universal issue of mental health. Individuals with psychological disorders can lessen their psychopathology by learning more effective methods to belong. This is an optimistic view because the absence of feeling belonging is a curable situation. A sense of belonging is essential in order for one to feel that he or she is actively contributing to the larger whole. A person who feels belonging feels valued and significant, and the person will contribute his or her best to society. That contribution represents social interest. The following poster presentation reviews 5 articles that discuss why the sense of belonging is crucial for well-being for people from all walks of life. So, Dreikers pointed out that one feels fully belonging when one feels equal to others, and that one's contributions are valued. Adler recognized equality as a fundamental prerequisite for the logic of social living. Well-being increases when groups feel equal and when they feel belonging. So this first example that we have here is an example from history, and it talks about Kenneth B. Clark, who in 1967, he was a one-time president for the American Psychological Association, and he it said that his information is what persuaded Thurgood Marshall and the U.S. Supreme Court to eradicate racial segregations in schools. And Kenneth Clark pointed out that the theory of Adler was pivotal in his own thinking. So this is an historical example of showing how sense of belonging is very important. Okay. Next. Okay. So this first project here that we're talking about happened in 2008, and it was by Foresight Science Future, and it was published in the London Times. It was led by Felicia Huppert, who was a professor of psychology at Cambridge University. The study included compiling by 400 scientists, and it was sent to the British government. This study found 5 categories that can make a profound difference in people's well-being. The very first one is to connect with people. The second one is to be active and do physical activities with others. These first 2 show that sense of belonging and social interest is very important for people's well-being. Also, number 4 is keep learning, experience joy in the here and now, and 5 is give, committing an act of kindness each day. This study is really cool because the sense of belonging is actualized in reports about well-being, and it was sent to the British government. And this is also really cool because this is all many years after Adler first wrote about the importance of social interest. Next, please. Alright, so now we're going to talk about why it's so important for the individual to feel a sense of belonging. Our first example here is from a study, and it talked about Pamela. All the names have been changed for confidentiality purposes. Pamela is she suffers from anxiety and unrealistic fears. She has problems with men. She's attracted to unreliable men who aren't interested in her. Her way of fulfilling her need to belong included a consistent set of behaviors revolving around caretaking, pleasing others, and giving, which created in her feelings of anxiety, frustration, disappointment, and anger. Her anxiety attacks had a purpose, and that purpose was giving her a creative way. That purpose was her creative way of giving her rest from being in service to others. I'm not sure if that made sense. Let me start that last sentence over. Her anxiety attacks had the purpose of being a creative way of giving her a rest from being in service to others. In therapy, find Pamela in finding less stressful ways to control her anxiety, to feel the need to belong. So instead of pleasing and having anxiety attacks as a result of that, Pamela in therapy found easier ways for herself to fulfill her need to belong without having the result of making her feel anxious. The next example is Robert, and Robert is a classic example of a workaholic. He lacks skills of interpersonal relations, and for him, work became an anchor for his need to belong. So all of his need to belong was focused in his work, and his personal relationships were suffering as a result of that. He was motivated to learn and practice his interactions with others at the workplace in therapy, and the workplace became a laboratory for acquiring a sense of belonging. And once he was more comfortable in the workplace, he moved those same practices to outside of the workplace and in other personal relationships. Next. So now we're going to talk about couples and why the need to belong is so important also in couples. The need to belong is crucial in romantic relationships. As quoted in Ansbacher, Adler said, "Certainly, love in all its variations is a feeling of belongingness and hence is characterized by its content as a social feeling." It's okay, Willow. Next one. Now we're also going to talk here about cross-cultural couples. Cross-cultural couples are met with even more challenges because you're not just bringing together the two cultures of the family, you also have to try to bring together two completely different cultural backgrounds. Thus merging is much more difficult, for it requires not only understanding of distinct family cultures, but also a thorough knowledge and understanding of others' total cultural background. One major issue with these couples is that many times one of the partners feels a lack of belonging to the new country or new culture, and if this isn't resolved, a lot of the times it ends up in divorce. When individuals learn to appreciate their own creative power, to actualize it, and to contribute to the community, their newfound strengths increase feelings of belonging and decrease tensions in the family. And an example in the article talked about a woman who moved to a new country with her new husband, and she was not feeling like she belonged there. She was an artist here in the United States where she moved from, and the therapist worked with her on how she was going to become a career artist and make a career out of being an artist here in the United States. And then she used those same things in the new country and became very integrated into the culture by trying to use her art, and it made her feel a lot better about being in a new country, and it allowed her to feel as though she belonged in her new community. Next. So now we're going to talk about families and how a sense of belonging is also really important in the family. Alright, so our first case example here is Kurt. And in Kurt's case, he always tried to be a super husband and a super father. He wanted everything to be perfect. He wanted to look perfect for his family. He was very industrious, productive, and effective. The more he wanted to be accepted and appreciated, that he belonged, the more he felt he did not belong. So his actions were actually producing the opposite effect of what he wanted them to. Kurt learned to ask for help in therapy and to admit weaknesses at times, and this change helped him feel accepted. He learned asking for help and admitting weakness increased his feelings of acceptance and belonging. Another example from families is a mother and daughter-in-law example. Most of the difficulties that come in between mother and daughter-in-laws relate to feelings of belonging. The young woman may experience anxiety about belonging to a new family. And the mother-in-law, also her biggest fear is the idea that she might be excluded from the new family. The mother-in-law strives to ensure that they continue to belong to their son, and they want to belong to his children and wife. So allowing them in therapy to come to an understanding about how really what it comes down to is wanting to feel as if they belong, then they can understand where the other one is coming from, and a lot of these problems will absolve themselves. Alright, so the next category we're going to talk about is addictions. Addictions are considered to be a goal is achieved by excessively doing something that might help one belong. And these are some examples here of addictions from the article. The first one is anorexia. And in the article it says anorexia is a wanting to be accepted in a group where weight loss is considered in. The next one is an alcoholic, where when the alcoholic drinks at the beginning, he or she becomes the center of fun and joy in a group, and it is actually encouraged. The next addiction is a compulsive cleaner. And they do this because they think that it contributes to others by serving their needs excessively. And a gambler who wants to bring much more money for his family. On the bottom here I have a quote from Adler, quoted in Ansbacher, and it says, "Dynamically, the function of social interest is to direct the striving toward the socially useful side." So all of these things, they're striving to belong, but they are doing it in a socially useless way. And in therapy, it'd be beneficial to show them how to fulfill these needs in a less harmful way. These people's addictions eventually push away the people they want to belong to, and it becomes the poison of their life. They need to learn new methods to connect and belong besides what they've been previously doing.